Hey, gang, my listeners in Michigan, you Michiganders loving the Playgun Lake Casino and Sportsbook app, right in the palm of my hand, right in the palm of their hands. The only app that I recommend in the great state of Michigan. Download the Playgun Lake Casino app right now, and all your favorite casino games will be right at your fingertips. Plus, you can bet on college and pro football this weekend and all your favorite sports. The odds, the bets, the slots, the games, right in your pocket. The casino comes wherever you might be. Have fun. Get in on all the action. Play live dealer games on your phone. Blackjack, roulette, baccarat. Great offer for new users. Listen to this. Download the Playgun Lake online casino app right now and get up to a $1,000 casino bonus back if you're down in the first 24 hours. The Playgun Lake Casino and Sportsbook app. It is your time to play. New users only. Casino bonus has to be wagered. Terms and conditions apply. See the website at playgunlake.com for details. Got to be 21 and in Michigan. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or the Michigan Problem Gambling Helpline at 1-800-270-7117. Time now for Tuesday headlines from the Smerconish.com daily newsletter. First, permit me a brag. I can't imagine I'm going to do this again because I can't envision we'll ever go higher.
And yet we just keep breaking headlines,
but
breaking
TC,
records.
I'm truly not aware. I am unaware of I'll say it as this, a non-paid subscription newsletter with a higher open rate than ours. And the reason that I put in that caveat is ours is free. You sign up, you're a subscriber every day at 8 a.m. Eastern Time in your in-bin. You get the daily newsletter, which consists of 20 aggregated links that I've hand-selected, the poll question of the day, exclusive content like today's Jack Omen cartoon, which is fabulous, but you're not paying for it. Let's say that you were paying for a financial services newsletter because, your investments are dependent upon it. I can imagine then that maybe you get 80% as an open rate, maybe because people are paying for it. Ours is free. And the brand new open rate is 78.84%. I'm unaware of anything higher in this realm. The standard is 20%. I think Axios is 40%, and the New York Times and Washington Post are somewhere around 60%. So thank you is what I mostly wanted to say. I was blown away when Joe Ellis, who's our digital media manager, thank you, Joe, gave me the latest metrics, that we have an open rate of 78.84%. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Alice. Thank you, team. Really, really appreciate it. Okay, so there are two big stories that I see today, two big political stories. One that has already been covered so extensively. It's that shock New York Times Siena College presidential poll showing that Joe Biden is losing to Donald Trump in 5 of 6 battleground states. So Nevada, 52-41 Trump. Georgia, 49-43 Trump. Arizona, 49-44 Trump. Pennsylvania, 48-43. Wisconsin, the only of these states where the lead is held by Joe Biden, it's 47-45. Really, really stunning. And when you delve into the crosstabs and look at what's driving the numbers, you see that the youth vote and the minority vote are not what you would expect them to be. Voters under 30 favor Joe Biden only by a single percentage point. Black voters, long the bulwark for Democrats and Biden. Remember, South Carolina saved Joe Biden in the last cycle. He was losing, was on his last legs, and then it was South Carolina that he had a Hail Mary largely engineered by James Clyburn. Black voters are now registering 22% support for Donald Trump. If that number were to hold, the election would be over on that statistic alone. So it's the bad polling for Joe Biden. And also it's the Donald Trump ongoing civil fraud trial where yesterday for 3.5 or 4 hours he sparred with the judge. By the way, I tweeted out yesterday that it is so ridiculous that we are relying on the modern equivalent of lemonade cans with string between them. I don't even know if anybody understands what I'm talking about, but as kids, truly, we did that. We had lemonade cans, string between them, and dripped wax on the string, and then convinced ourselves that you could actually hear your buddy around the corner. But when you've got a reporter sitting in the courtroom texting to a colleague who's outside the courtroom, and the colleague outside the courtroom is then on camera and giving a report of what Donald Trump's testimony is, like, that's lemonade cans. There ought to be cameras in that courtroom. There ought to be cameras in every courtroom. Big picture, Trump risks losing his New York real estate empire and having to pay significant civil damages. His personal liberty is not at issue in this. It's a civil case, but it's a civil case where summary judgment has already been entered on behalf of the state. There's already been a finding of fraud here. So this testimony, this back and forth, is all about how much Trump is going to owe in the end. And he attacked the judge and Gurin constantly for the 4 hours. They sparred. I see these two stories, the bad polling numbers for Joe Biden, the good polling numbers for Donald Trump, and what's going on in that civil fraud case in New York as being interconnected, and not just because they both involve Trump. I see causation, is what I'm trying to say. Donald Trump is not the front runner. Let me say it this way. Donald Trump is not the front runner in spite of being 4 times indicted and facing removal in some states because of the 14th Amendment challenges, and having already been found by Judge Nguyen to have committed civil fraud. No, Donald Trump is the front runner partly because of those things. I'm not saying it's only that. I recognize from the polling data that Biden has a lot of issues. The electorate is angry. The country, I think 76% say, headed in the wrong direction. People are upset about the economy, even if some of the metrics look decent. And obviously, I say obviously because you see it in every one of the polls, they think that he's too old. And all of that, plus the perception that institutional forces are out to get Donald Trump, is what's helping Donald Trump. From the Wall Street Journal editorial today, which is very cleverly titled, "Will Trump be indicted into office?" These 2 paragraphs. For Mr. Trump's critics, who believe the legal system can knock him out of the 2024 presidential election, his civil testimony Monday was a light amuse-bouche. The 4-course meal to follow is the criminal process after Mr. Trump's state indictment in New York, 2 charge sheets from the feds, and then another in Georgia. And yet, despite it all, or more accurately, because of it all, Trump is dominating the Republican primary polling. Is Mr. Trump's candidacy really being floated by his prosecutions? Well, check out the recent reporting on the Win It Back PAC. An article in Politico last week says the group tested 4 TV ads focused on Trump's legal travails. All 4 ads tested failed to move support away from Trump, a research memo concluded. Even more fascinating, 3 of the commercials increased Trump's support. In other words, a PAC was about to air ads talking about Trump's indictments in an effort to try and undermine Trump and undercut his numbers. They focus grouped the ads. And what did they find out? It only emboldened people to be more supportive of Donald Trump. And he gets it, by the way. He needs to be there, obviously, to present his testimony. But I think yesterday was day 8 that he's been in that courtroom. He hasn't needed to be there up until now. He realizes that this is a daily soapbox where he gets to actually fight publicly with one of these institutional forces that are out, he says, to keep him from running again for office. So it's all been to his benefit. It has all been to his benefit. And the only thing that remains to be seen, and it's interesting because the New York Times has a page 1 above the fold story today, guilty verdicts could capsize Trump's 2024 bid. And in the Times, it talks all about the poll that I referenced where he's beating Biden in 5 of 6 of the battleground states. But this version of the Times says, well, when you ask people, but what if he's convicted? Then you see that 6% in battleground states say, oh, well, then maybe I'm not going to vote for him. I have no idea. All I know is that all of these efforts to take him out and prevent the electorate from having a say so far are to his benefit. More headlines from the Tuesday edition of the Daily Newsletter. TC, it is Election Day.
It is.
So here's what's driving the national headlines. Driving the national headlines is, the Kentucky gubernatorial contest.
Right.
The Mississippi gubernatorial contest, where, by the way, there is an Elvis cousin who has the name Presley who is running.
Fabulous. Talk about name recognition.
Yes.
Right.
And apparently that's like the intro music, the walkout music.
Of course. I hope so.
Ohio has an abortion initiative. I predict that there will be lots of abortion initiatives in 2024 because it'll be a very clever way for Democrats in particular to drive the electorate. In addition to the presidential race, have an abortion referendum. Pennsylvania, we're filling an open seat in the state Supreme Court. Rhode Island has a special election for Congress, an open seat in Congress. Okay, so have I appropriately covered like what everybody's buzzing about nationally?
Oh, I'm sorry. What's going on in Virginia?
So in Virginia, today we finally find out, is Susanna Gibson going to win for the 57th House of Delegates seat against David Owen?
Like, listen to you. You're like... You're practically a pundit. Yes, and indeed, that is today's poll question at Smerconish.com, and it'll be interesting to see if the vote at Smerconish.com aligns with the vote in Virginia. That is what I cannot wait.
Well,
when both polls close, Michael,
both polls,
where will we be?
So, okay, I took her name out of it, and I also took her gender out of it.
I noticed, and I thought that was really clever.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
So here's the way that I worded it. Could you vote for a political candidate who live streamed sexual acts with their spouse for money?
You got all the elements in there. It's the spouse.
Yeah.
It's not the gender. It's for money, which a lot of people say that was sort of the turning point for them. Like if it was just for sort of fun kicks, then that's one thing.
If a sex tape, of a married couple were leaked into public, I mean,
not even leaked. No, this is meaning like there's a line. People are drawing the line saying like the performative aspect of it is not the issue. It's the money aspect of it that's the issue.
I was just going to say the fact that they were soliciting tips.
Yeah.
Is what really makes it.
Is it? Is that the problem?
Yeah, that's what really makes it unseemly and a question of judgment.
Well, isn't the whole thing a question of judgment? Come on.
They don't rain on my parade.
Oh, no,
I'm having too
not
much fun
raining.
with my poll question.
I'm opinionating.
So here's another part of this that interests me. She's 40 years old. She's a nurse practitioner. She's attractive. We have to say that, right? She's defiant. She published something yesterday at Blue, Virginia, where she said this: everyone told me that running for office would make my private life more public. My family and I were prepared for the increased scrutiny, were they? But no one could prepare us for multiple death threats, people coming to my home to intimidate me and my children, and my family being a victim of swatting, the false reporting of a violent emergency situation that resulted in an unnecessary law enforcement response at our home. And then further along, she says, through my initial anger, disappointment, and shock, it became clear to me that these coordinated attacks on me and my family expose exactly who my opponent and the Virginia GOP really are: politicians who feel they have the right to know what goes on in our private lives and the power to control what we do with our bodies.
I'm sorry, I get it, but it's not private. It's not private.
And then she's trying to make it about abortion.
We're not like looking in the bedroom window. You got a camera.
Right.
Aimed at the body. I mean,
let's see how she does.
Right.
Let's see how she does. Because,
you do you, but you can't say, you can't take this under consideration when it's in the public forum. You just can't do that. You can't.
The margin in the House of Delegates is close. So it's not a leap to say the control of the Virginia state legislature could be determined by the outcome of the 57th.
Hey, all eyes are on Virginia, okay?
It's like Heinz, 57. Isn't it 57 varieties?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, that's how we'll remember this.
All eyes are on Virginia and Smerconish.com.
Yes. So we'll see what our poll results are. We'll see what the Virginia results are. Okay. Congressman Dean Phillips from the great state of Minnesota was recently a guest on this program. He is running against Joe Biden for the presidency. This was from the Saturday newsletter. You got to read this story, and you can look in our archives because we archive all of our material, but it's a story from the Washington Post about how his first town hall went off the rails. Representative Dean Phillips says he will host 119 town halls in his long-shot primary challenge against Joe Biden. If the reception at his first is any indication of the next potential 118, the nascent campaign faces an even steeper uphill battle for the nomination than expected as a little-known congressman challenging an incumbent president. You just have to read. He was heckled, shouted out, people got crazy.
They escorted out the only black woman in the room, and then he was accused of gaslighting her. Like, it was all kinds of insanity went on.
You have to read the story. Whoa. You have to read the story. Also, from the Saturday newsletter, who's laughing now at the Stephan versus Smerconish method? Because the Daily Mail had an analysis with schematics of the way that airline travel will look in 2050.
Someone actually asked me about the Smerconish method.
Who was it?
I swear. I was like cocktail conversation.
I love that.
This is me, head in hand.
Keep that friend.
Oh, Lord.
Okay, no, gang. I'm sorry. I wasn't here yesterday. Thank you, Danny Savalos. I have to mention this. In the Saturday newsletter, are we showing this on our YouTube? I hope we are. From the Saturday newsletter, the Daily Mail piece had the interior of airplanes as they may look in 2050. It's the Smerconish method. I mean, it's like all the luggage.
There's all kinds of chairs.
Yeah.
It's all every which way.
It's amazing.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you say so.
Okay, keep giggling.
I'm not giggling.
Keep giggling.
I'm not the Smerconish method.
Okay, how about this?
Okay, what
From the
else?
Sunday newsletter.
Oh.
A remarkable piece from Vox about shoplifting. Apparently, if you work in retail, you see people shoplift all day long.
All day long.
All day long.
It's a thing. It is a thing.
I think I want to do this as a segment.
We have talked about this. You have talked about the big box stores, specifically your son's experience.
Yep.
Like, we have discussed this, and it is evidently hugely prevalent, and they are told not to do anything.
Right.
Not to do anything. I don't understand that.
Well, I mean, I get it. I get it from the
People
perspective
must be so emboldened.
of the son of mine who was working at a big box store. I think I ultimately said it was Home Depot. And somebody came in and asked him questions about a generator. And he stood there very dutifully, like explaining and then the guy picked up the generator and just walked out the door.
Yeah.
And they've been instructed, do not confront. I get it from a liability standpoint.
Right.
Because all of a sudden then, what if my son tackles him and becomes injured and then I get it.
No,
But apparently it's out of control.
Out of control.
Yeah. I have to call my buddy Don Mihalik, who is a retired United States Secret Service agent and worked in presidential protective details and is also a really good guy. He and his wife Val have raised money for the Garden of Reflection, and they're just good people.
Yep.
I want to ask him about the whole Secret Service issue and RFK Jr.
Oh, yes.
RFK Jr. obviously had the family history with his uncle and his father. He himself had some guys show up at one of his events, really unsettling,
and then come to his home.
Right, but there was a piece in The Hill. From Douglas McKinnon, who's been a guest on this program. Why is Biden denying Secret Service protection to RFK Jr.? Is it the precedent that it would set that everybody would want it? You get it 120 days out, I think is the standard when you're the nominee. But RFK Jr. wants Secret Service protection. Cheryl Hines wants him to have it. Biden and Secretary Mayorkas could make it happen, but they aren't making it happen. And I'm just curious as to why.
What's the thinking?
Yeah, is it a cost thing?
Right.
I mean, God forbid something should happen to him or any other presidential candidate.
Right.
I worry about that. How about this story from our own backyard from the Eagles game against Dallas? George Norcross, who is a South Jersey political power broker.
Very familiar name in these parts.
Hangs an Israeli flag, an American flag outside of his super box at Lincoln Financial Field, and it gets taken down and he gets removed. And on one hand,
he's not removed because of the flag. He was removed because he didn't want to take down the flag. In other words, there's an in between there that has to be. It wasn't like they're like you hung this flag, now you have to leave. I think there was a. And
to state the obvious, like I'm hearing from lots of people, like how could they tell him? How Jeffrey Lurie? How could
of all people,
of all people, whatever that means, I guess because he's Jewish. Like, how could you allow this to happen? But then you say, Okay, somebody, catty corner puts up a Palestinian flag next to an American.
Right.
And then all of a sudden,
just no flags, if that's the rule, then you have to follow the rule.
But I come at it from a different standpoint, which is to say, I don't want to turn, like, it's escapism. We get to watch a football game for 2.5 hours, and it could be baseball, it could be anything.
Right.
Already the players are wearing different emblems and insignia for political causes. Do we really want to turn a stadium into a place where now every political message is aired? I don't think so.
I think the Eagles agree with you.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, it seems insensitive initially. What will become of the Berkeley no clothing hot tub? You can read that at Smerconish.com. Did you follow this story?
I did follow that story. It sounds absolutely amazing. Get a special code, go into a suburban backyard, and there's the hot tub. Anyone can use it as long as they have the code. Been doing this for years and years and years. No clothing. Clothing it's not that it's optional. There is no clothing allowed. So that's one of the rules. But the man who owned the house and the hot tub has died. And now what's going to happen to the house? That's the question.
How much chlorine are they putting in that hot tub?
Not enough.
Was what I wanted to know.
Enough.
When I read it. Also, if you ever watch or attend an overseas sporting event, they sing. They sing.
Yeah,
they all
it's
know
a soccer thing.
They all, and it's fun. And I've had that experience in the Premier League a couple of times to actually be in the UK and just take it all in, because I don't know the words to the songs, but they all know. And by the way, some of them are very graphic.
Body.
There you go.
Yes.
Okay, so what's going on in Germany for NFL fans?
They're singing John Denver's Take Me Home Country Road.
Why?
That's the best thing I've ever heard.
Why?
I don't know, but I'm so excited about it. I mean, John Denver, that's my childhood.
Football fans in Germany have started their own tradition during the NFL's International Series games there. Fans in Frankfurt broke into song as the Kansas City Chiefs took on the Miami Dolphins in the league's second ever game in Germany. The first of 2 this season. Their choice of song was rather unique, especially from tens of thousands of fans outside the United States. John Denver's Take Me Home Country Roads. It's not the first time German football fans have shown their own affinity for the song. At last year's inaugural International Series game in Germany between the Buccaneers and Seahawks at the Allianz Arena in Munich, fans also joined in singing his, who planted that
so
seed?
American.
Who planted that seed?
I love it.
Like a couple of guys.
Go.
Yeah, okay. By the way, Prince Harry has not received an invite to King Charles' 75th birthday, and guess who else didn't receive an invite? No surprise there. Thank you, gang, for that astounding open rate for the daily newsletter. Really appreciate you. See you tomorrow.